Hi, my name is Todd from sportieshealth.com.au. I'm here today with Dale from Optimum Nutrition. Dale, there's a lot of information out there about protein powder and supplements and just different things. I think most people that either train or are about to start training or have friends that train have heard of a product called creatine monohydrate. And I just wanted to find out from you, what is creatine and how does it work?
Okay. Creatine is probably the most studied, most researched sports supplement to date. It's over 16 years old now, so it's been around a very long time. And the reason it stood the test of time is it works. It's absolutely fantastic at basically increasing cellular energy. To give you an idea of how it works, when you're training, when you're doing any form of exercise or muscle contraction, your body uses, or your muscles cells use a fuel called ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate. Now, what happens each time you do a muscle contraction, when there's, in the tri being three phosphates bonded together, one of those phosphates breaks off. Now that then causes it to be, or leaves it being adenosine diphosphate. So therefore you then struggle to, from an endurance perspective and a power output perspective and things like that. Creatine, phosphate creatine means that the creatine has got that phosphate attached to it. So as long as you've supplemented with creatine, you've got the potential for a hell of a lot more of that creatine and that phosphate to then be activated back onto the adenosine diphosphate, causing it to turn back into adenosine triphosphate, ready for that next muscle contraction. And this is especially important with all strength-based exercise. So you'll get a massive increase in strength, power output. You can train harder and longer, you get more reps and more sets and put more weight on the bar. Ultimately, that can lead to increased protein synthesis or muscle gain, as long as you're backing it up with the right amino acids and protein.
So you really need to get a good recovery from that extra effort.
Correct. Well, the protein's your building blocks. So I liken your creatine to an energy perspective, and your protein is your building block. So that's basically going to be repairing that damage to get you back training faster and in an optimum position.
Great. I've heard with creatine monohydrate in particular that you can do a loading phase. What's a loading phase and what's the best way of going about this?
A loading phase is typically associated more with the creatine monohydrate, and what we're trying to do is, it is a little bit more difficult of a creatine monohydrate for your body to absorb that creatine. So you're basically taking small dosages split throughout, say, 4 different times throughout the day, over up to a week's period. Now that depends on the person's goals and their body weight and things like that. So, but generally what you're trying to do is saturate the muscle cells to get as much creatine in there as possible, and then what they call a loading phase, which is basically putting in 1 5-gram teaspoon a day, post-exercise thereafter. So basically topping back up what you've just used. Some people can put it in pre as well. I like to put things in post-exercise because you're basically topping back up what your body spent whilst exercising.
A lot of people that come into the store, they ask, is creatine safe to take? And there are a lot of misconceptions out there, and people have wives' tales and so forth that have gotten around. Is creatine a safe product to use?
Creatine's very safe to use. I mean, it wouldn't be still on the shelves these days. A 16-year-old product wouldn't be on the shelves these days if it was unsafe. There have been some studies, and for every study that did come out, there were another 4 virtually almost instantly released refuting that particular study. Right. So creatine is definitely safe. There might be some instances where there can be some negative side effects, and a lot of that will be a person not prepping themselves correctly. Creatine monohydrate plays a lot with cell hydration as well, so it can draw fluid away. So the number one thing with creatine is you need to be drinking plenty of water. Mm-hmm. So in that respect, there might be some negatives to it, but as a general rule, creatine is absolutely safe.
Great. Thanks very much for your help again.
Not a problem.